The champagne glass shattered against the marble floor of the Grand Victoria Hotel ballroom, and every head in the room turned toward Amara Okonkwo. But not because she dropped it. You shameless woman. Amara's voice cut through the music, like a machete through sugarcane. Her trembling finger pointed directly at her husband, Chaik, whose arms were wrapped around a woman in a skin-tight red dress. In front of everyone? On our 10th wedding anniversary. What would you do if you walked in on this? Hit like if you've been betrayed, and comment below where you're watching from. The hired band stopped playing. 200 guests, family members, business associates, church friends, froze with forks halfway to their mouths. This was supposed to be Lagos' social event of the season, a celebration of a decade of marriage between Chaik Okonkwo, real estate mogul, and Amara, the woman who'd stood by him when he had nothing but dreams and a rusted pickup truck. But the woman draped over Chaik wasn't Amara. It was Ngozi Adebayo, his executive assistant, wearing a diamond necklace that Amara had never seen before but recognized immediately. It matched the earrings Chaik claimed were too expensive to buy her last month. Chaik's face went from shock to irritation in seconds. He didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. "Amara, you're making a scene," he said, his voice cold and measured. "Go home. We'll discuss this later." Discuss? Amara's laugh was brittle, painful to hear. She'd spent 3 days planning this anniversary party. She'd worn the gold-lace iro and buba her mother had sewn by hand. She'd invited his entire family, including his mother who'd never liked her. "There's nothing to discuss. Chaik, everyone can see what you are." Ngozi had the audacity to smirk, adjusting the necklace. "Maybe if you kept yourself up better, your husband wouldn't need to look elsewhere," she purred, running her manicured nails down Chaik's chest. The room gasped collectively. Someone's aunt muttered a prayer in Yoruba. Amara felt something inside her crack. Not break. She'd save the breaking for later in private. Right now, rage kept her spine straight. "Keep myself up?" She stepped forward, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper that somehow carried to the silent ballroom. "I kept your business up when the banks wouldn't give you a loan. I kept your mother's hospital bills paid when you were too busy, working late. I kept this family together while you—" "Enough." Chaik's palm slammed on the table beside him, making glasses jump. "You want to know the truth, Amara? You're boring. You're plain. You stopped trying years ago. Look at you. You dress like somebody's grandmother. You never want to go anywhere. You're always tired. What did you expect me to do?" The cruelty in his words hit harder than any physical blow could have. Around them, guests shifted uncomfortably. Chaik's mother, Mama Nkechi, stood from her seat with a satisfied smile playing at her lips. She'd been waiting for this moment. "My son deserves better than a barren woman anyway," Mama Nkechi announced, her voice carrying the weight of 10 years of disappointment. 10 years of marriage and not one grandchild. What kind of wife are you? The word barren landed like a curse. Amara felt her legs weaken, but she locked her knees. They didn't know. Nobody knew what she'd sacrificed, the secret she'd kept to protect Chaik's pride. "Tell them," Amara said quietly, looking directly at her husband. "Tell them the truth about why we have no children." Chaik's jaw tightened. "Don't you dare." "Tell them." Amara's voice rose. "Tell them about the medical reports. Tell them who can't have children." The room went dead silent. Chaik's face turned purple with rage. He took a step toward Amara, and for a moment, she thought he might actually hit her. Instead, he leaned in close, his breath hot against her ear. "You're going to regret this," he whispered. "I'll make sure you leave this marriage with nothing. Not the house, not the cars, nothing. You'll be back in that slum in Adjuguna where I found you, selling pure water by the roadside." He pulled back and addressed the room with a charming smile, as if he hadn't just threatened his wife. "My apologies, everyone. My wife is clearly having some kind of episode. The party is over. Please enjoy the food on your way out." People began gathering their bags, whispering furiously. Amara stood alone in the center of the emptying ballroom, her gold-lace outfit suddenly feeling like a costume, her dignity in tatters. Ngozi sauntered past her, pausing just long enough to whisper, "He's been mine for 3 years, darling. I'm just done sharing." 3 years. Amara's mind reeled. 3 years of lies, of late nights at the office, of business trips that lasted too long. 3 years of her wondering what she'd done wrong, trying harder, praying more, being the perfect wife to a man who'd been betraying her the entire time. She turned to leave, to salvage whatever dignity she'd left, when her phone buzzed in her clutch. A message from an unknown number. Mrs. Okonkwo, this is Barrister Ajamosu. We need to meet urgently regarding your father-in-law's will. Come alone. Tell no one, especially not your husband. Amara stared at the message, her heart hammering. Papa Okonkwo had died 6 months ago. The will had supposedly been read already. Chike had inherited everything. The property empire, the investments, the offshore accounts. He'd told her there was nothing for her to worry about, that it was all family business. But why would the lawyer be contacting her now? And why the secrecy? She looked back at the ballroom one last time. Chike and Gozi were already gone, probably some hotel room to celebrate their public victory. His mother was holding court with relatives, no doubt spinning the story in her son's favor. Amara slipped out of the Grand Victoria Hotel and into the humid Lagos night, her mind racing. She'd been humiliated, betrayed, called barren in front of everyone she knew. She should have been broken. But as she clutched her phone with a mysterious message, something else stirred inside her. Something cold and calculating that she'd inherited from her own late father, the man who'd taught her that patience wasn't weakness. It was strategy. She had no idea that tomorrow would change everything, that the lawyer's message would reveal a truth that would turn her public humiliation into the first move in a game Chike didn't even know he was playing. A game he was about to lose spectacularly. What do you think the lawyer wants to tell Amara? Drop your predictions in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the next chapter. You won't believe what happens when Amara discovers the truth about the inheritance. Share this with someone who loves a good revenge story. The law office of Ajamosu and Associates sat on the 20th floor of a glass tower in Victoria Island, overlooking the Lagos harbor, where cargo ships moved like slow-moving toys. Amara had barely slept. She'd spent the night in her car, parked outside her sister's apartment in Lekki, too ashamed to go inside and explain what had happened at the party, too afraid to go home and face Chike. By the time dawn broke over the city, she'd made a decision. Whatever the lawyer wanted to tell her, she would listen. She had nothing left to lose. Barrister Ajamosu was a thin man in his 60s with sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He stood when Amara entered his office, his expression grave. Mrs. Okonkwo, thank you for coming alone. He gestured to a leather chair across from his massive mahogany desk. I apologize for the cryptic message, but what I'm about to tell you requires absolute discretion. Amara sat, her hands gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles went white. Is this about Papa Okonkwo's will? I thought everything was settled months ago. That's what your husband wanted everyone to believe. Barrister Ajamosu opened a thick manila folder. What I'm about to share with you will be shocking, Mrs. Okonkwo. Papa Okonkwo came to me 3 years before his death and made significant changes to his will. Changes he specifically instructed me not to reveal until 6 months after his passing, and only to you. To me? Amara's voice came out as barely a whisper. Why me? The lawyer pulled out a document, sliding it across the desk. Because Papa Okonkwo knew exactly what kind of man his son was, and he knew exactly what kind of woman you are. Amara's eyes scanned the document, but the legal language swam before her eyes. I don't understand. What does this mean? It means, Barrister Ajamosu said carefully, that Chike Okonkwo inherited nothing. The reading 6 months ago was for a decoy will, a fake document Papa Okonkwo created by time and test his son's character. The real will states that you, Amara Okonkwo, are the sole beneficiary of the entire Okonkwo estate. The words didn't make sense. Amara read them again, then again. The entire estate? But that's impossible. The properties in Ikoyi, the shopping complex in Abuja, the hotels, the investments, that's worth billions of naira. 8.3 billion naira, to be exact, the lawyer confirmed. Plus the house you currently live in, which is also solely in your name as of this reading. Papa Okonkwo transferred everything into a trust with you as the beneficiary. Chike has been operating the businesses under the assumption that he owns them, but legally, he owns nothing. He never did. Amara felt like she was floating outside her body. But why? Why would Papa do this? Barrister Ajamosu's expression softened. Because he saw how you took care of him during his illness. Because he saw how Chike treated you. The disrespect, the coldness. Papa Okonkwo told me himself, my son inherited my business sense but not my character. Amara is the daughter I should have had. She will know what to do with my legacy. Tears streamed down Amara's face. Not from sadness now, but from shock and something that felt dangerously like hope. He never said anything to me. Not once. He made me promise to wait. He wanted to see what Chike would do after his death, whether guilt or love would change him. The lawyer's voice hardened. Based on what I witnessed at your anniversary party last night, yes, I was there, I needed to see for myself. I'd say Papa Okonkwo's instincts were correct. Your husband has shown his true colors spectacularly. Amara's mind raced through the implications. The house. The businesses. Everything Chike had been bragging about for 6 months. Everything he'd used to make her feel small and dependent. None of it was his. It was all hers. Does Chike know any of this? Not yet, but he will today. Barrister Ajamosu pulled out another document. This is a notice of ownership that must be served to him by 5 o'clock this evening, as stipulated in the will. After that, the information becomes public record. By tomorrow morning, every business partner, every bank, every person he's bragged to about his inheritance will know the truth. A laugh bubbled up from Amara's chest. Slightly hysterical, slightly vindictive. He humiliated me in front of everyone. Called me boring and plain. His mother called me barren. Then, perhaps, the lawyer said with a hint of a smile, it's time for them to learn that you're neither boring nor plain nor powerless. The question is, Mrs. Okonkwo, what do you want to do with this information? Amara stared at the document spread before her. Yesterday, she'd been a humiliated wife with nothing. Today, she was one of the wealthiest women in Lagos, and her cheating husband didn't even know it yet. I want everything done exactly as Papa Okonkwo instructed, she said, her voice steady now. Serve the papers at 5 o'clock. But I want to be there when Chike received them. Barrister Ajamosu nodded approvingly. There's one more thing you should know. Papa Okonkwo left you a personal letter. He made me promise to give it to you when the will was revealed. He handed her a sealed envelope with her name written in Papa Okonkwo's shaky handwriting. Amara opened it with trembling fingers. My dear Amara, if you're reading this, I am gone and you now know the truth. I am sorry I could not tell you while I lived, but I need to be sure what I already suspected, that my son values money over character, and that his mother raised him to believe cruelty is strength. You reminded me of my late wife, your mother-in-law who died when Chike was young. She was kind and strong, just like you. I failed her by not standing up to my sister enough when she took over raising Chike. I will not fail you. This money is not revenge, my daughter. It is justice. Use it wisely. Use it to build the life you deserve. And use it to teach my son the lesson I should have taught him years ago, that a man's wealth means nothing without integrity, and that the woman he discarded was worth more than anything I could leave him. Be strong. Be fierce. Make me proud. Papa Okonkwo. By the time Amara finished reading, tears were streaming down her face, but they were different tears now. Not tears of shame or pain, but tears of gratitude and determination. She looked up at the lawyer. I'll need to make some arrangements. Can you have someone accompany me to the house this afternoon? I want to collect my personal belongings before the papers are served. Of course. I'll send my associate with you. And Mrs. Okonkwo. Barrister Ajamosu stood. Your father-in-law chose well. I can see it in your eyes. You're going to handle this with more grace than your husband deserves. Amara stood too, squared her shoulders. Grace, yes, but also justice. He took my dignity yesterday. Today, I take everything else. She left the law office with her head held high, already planning her next move. Chike would be at the house this afternoon. She knew his schedule. He always came home at 3 o'clock to shower and change before his evening business meetings that she now knew were dates with Ngozi. He thought he'd broken her. He thought she'd come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, accepting whatever scraps of marriage he deigned to offer. He had no idea that in 3 hours, his entire world was about to collapse, and Amara was going to be standing there watching when it did. Can you imagine the look on Chaik's face when he finds out? Comment below what you think he'll do. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The next chapter is when Amara serves the papers, and you do not want to miss Chaik's reaction. Share this story with anyone who needs to hear that revenge is a dish best served legally. The house in Ikoyi had never felt like home to Amara, despite 10 years of living there. It was too large, too cold. All white marble and sharp edges that Chaik's interior designer had chosen without asking her opinion. But as she walked to the front door at 2:30 p.m. with Barrister Ajamosa's associate, a stern woman named Folake, Amara felt something shift inside her. This house was hers now. Every gleaming tile, every expensive painting, every piece of furniture that Chaik had bought to impress his friends, all of it belonged to her. "We should hurry, Ma," Folake said, checking her watch. "Mr. Okonkwo usually arrives home around 3? "Yes." Amara headed upstairs to the master bedroom, her heart pounding. She pulled her suitcases from the closet and began packing quickly. Clothes, documents, the few photographs she still cared about. She left behind the jewelry Chaik had given her over the years. She didn't want anything that came with the memory of his lies. She was zipping up her second suitcase when she heard the front door slam downstairs. "Amara," Chaik's voice boomed through the house. "I know you're here. Your car is in the driveway." Folake's eyes widened. "He's early. We should go now." But Amara shook her head. "No, I want to be here when he gets the papers." "Are you sure? The courier won't arrive until—" The doorbell rang. Amara checked her phone. 2:47 p.m. The courier was early, too. She smiled. Papa Okonkwo must have been orchestrating this from beyond the grave. "I'll get it," Chaik yelled from downstairs. Through the bedroom door, Amara could hear him stomping to the entrance, muttering about incompetent delivery, people interrupting his afternoon. She moved to the top of the stairs, Folake beside her, as Chaik opened the door. "Delivery for Mr. Chaik Okonkwo," a man's voice said. "Legal documents. I need your signature." "What legal documents?" Chaik sounded annoyed. "I'm not expecting anything." "Sir, I just delivered them. Please sign here." Amara heard the scratch of pen on paper. Then the sound of an envelope being torn open. The house went absolutely silent. She could picture Chaik's face as he read the first lines of the ownership notice, as the truth began to sink in. Then, "What?" The roar was so loud it seemed to shake the chandelier. Amara gripped the banister, her heart racing, but she kept her face calm. "This is a mistake." Chaik shouted at the courier. "This has to be a mistake. My father left everything to me. I was at the will reading." "Sir, I just delivered the documents. If you have questions, the law office contact is on the letterhead." "Get out! Get out!" The door slammed so hard that picture frames rattled on the walls. Amara heard paper crumpling, then being smoothed out again, then Chaik's heavy footsteps pacing frantically in the foyer. He was reading it again, trying to make the words say something different. "Amara!" he screamed. "Amara, where are you?" She descended the stairs slowly, deliberately, with Folake following behind her. Chaik stood in the middle of the foyer, still wearing his expensive suit from the office, his face purple with rage, the legal documents clutched in his fist. When he saw her, his eyes blazed. "What is this? What have you done?" "I haven't done anything," Amara said calmly. "Your father did. 3 years ago, apparently. You lying witch. You manipulated a dying old man. You tricked him somehow." Folake stepped forward. "Mr. Okonkwo, I advise you to speak carefully. Everything you say is being recorded." She held up her phone, the red recording light blinking. Chaik's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Then he seemed to notice Amara's suitcases at the top of the stairs. "You're leaving?" "You can't leave. This is my house." "Actually," Amara said, and she was surprised by how steady her voice was, "according to those papers you're holding, this is my house." It's been in my name since your father created the trust. You've been living in my house for 6 months, Chike, rent-free. That's impossible. Papa wouldn't, he couldn't. Chike looked down at the papers again, his hands shaking. This says you own everything. The properties, the businesses, everything. That can't be right. There must be some provision, some clause. There isn't, Folek interjected. The will is ironclad. Mrs. Okonkwo is the sole beneficiary of the Okonkwo estate. You, Mr. Okonkwo, inherited nothing. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Amara watched her husband's face cycle through emotions. Disbelief, rage, panic, and finally, something that looked almost like fear. You can't do this to me, he said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Do you know who I am in this city? Do you know what I'll look like when people find out? You mean when they find out you've been operating businesses you don't own? Amara asked. When they find out you've been bragging about an inheritance that was never yours. When they find out you publicly humiliated your wife at your anniversary party, not knowing she could make you homeless with one phone call. Chike's face went from purple to white. Amara, wait, let's talk about this. We can work something out. Like we worked out our marriage? Amara's voice turned cold. Like we worked out your affair with Ngozi? How long has that been going on, Chike? She said 3 years. Is that true? His silence was answer enough. 3 years, Amara repeated. The same amount of time your father was planning this. He knew, didn't he? He saw what you were doing to me. Papa was old, he was confused. He was dying, not stupid. Amara cut him off. He saw exactly what you are, and he made sure justice was served. Chike's expression shifted, became calculating. Fine. You want to play this game? Keep the house. Keep some of the money. But the businesses, those are mine. I built them up. I run them. Without me, they'll collapse. Then I guess I'll have to learn quickly. Amara picked up her suitcases, started toward the door. You have until tomorrow morning to remove your personal belongings. After that, I'm having the locks changed. Tomorrow, Chike exploded. You can't throw me out of my own house. Your house. Amara turned at the door, and for the first time, she let him see the anger burning beneath her calm exterior. You threw away our marriage in front of 200 people. You let your mistress insult me while wearing jewelry you said we couldn't afford. Your mother called me barren when you've always known, that you're the reason we have no children. Chike's face went ashen. Several people at the party had heard her accusation, but the full truth hadn't been revealed. Amara, don't what? Don't tell people that you're infertile? That I've been protecting your secret for 8 years while you blame me? While you let your family shame me? Amara's voice rose. You made me feel worthless yesterday, Chike. You made me feel like I deserved your betrayal. But your father saw my worth even when you couldn't. I'll fight this, Chike snarled. I'll take you to court. I'll prove you manipulated him. Please do, Amara said softly. And I'll make sure every detail of your affair comes out in court documents. Every business lunch that was actually a hotel room. Every conference in Dubai that was a vacation with Ngozi. I have bank statements now. Chike, I have access to everything. Do you really want me to look closely at where you've been spending money that wasn't even yours? The threat landed. Chike's face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me? Amara walked out the door, Folek beside her. Behind her, she heard something shatter. Probably Chike throwing one of his expensive whiskey glasses against the wall. Then his voice screaming, This isn't over. You hear me, Amara? This isn't over. But as Amara slid into her car and started the engine, she felt something unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Not happiness. Not yet. But power. Control. The knowledge that for the first time in 10 years, her future belonged to her. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I saw what happened at the party. I have information about your husband you need to hear. Meet me at Cafe Harmony in Lekki tomorrow at 10 a.m. Come alone. A friend. Amara stared at the message, her blood running cold. What information? What else had Chike been hiding? She looked up at the house through her rear-view mirror. Chike stood in the window of what used to be their bedroom, his silhouette dark against the light, watching her drive away. And for the first time, Amara wondered, what exactly was she dealing with? How deep did her husband's betrayal go? She had a terrible feeling she was about to find out. Who do you think sent that message? What other secrets is Chike hiding? Drop your theories in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. Cafe Harmony sat on a quiet street in Lekki Phase 1. The kind of place where Lagos' elite met for discreet conversations over overpriced lattes. Amara arrived 15 minutes early, choosing a corner table where she could watch the entrance. She'd barely slept again, her mind spinning with questions about the mysterious text message. The cafe was half empty at 10 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Soft jazz played over hidden speakers, and the air smelled of fresh coffee and pastries. Amara ordered a cappuccino she didn't drink, her eyes fixed on the door. At exactly 10 a.m., a woman walked in. Amara's breath caught in her throat. She recognized her immediately, Adiz Chakwu, Chike's former secretary, the woman who'd worked for him 4 years ago before suddenly resigning and disappearing. Amara remembered her. Quiet, efficient, always professional. She'd liked Adiz, had even invited her to dinner once, but the woman had left the company abruptly, and Chike had refused to discuss why. Now Adiz stood before her, older than Amara remembered, with shadows under her eyes and a wariness that spoke of hard lessons learned. She wore a simple dress and carried a large manila envelope. Mrs. Okonkwo, Adiz said softly, "Thank you for meeting me." Adiz. Amara gestured to the chair across from her. I didn't expect it to be you. How did you know about the party? About what happened? Adiz sat down, clutching the envelope like a lifeline. It's all over social media. One of the guests recorded the whole thing and posted it. Your husband humiliating you has been viewed 50,000 times since yesterday. Amara felt her stomach drop. She deliberately avoided her phone, avoided social media. She hadn't realized her shame had gone viral. I'm sorry, Adiz continued. I know that must be painful. But when I saw it, I knew I had to reach out. I couldn't stay silent anymore. Silent about what? Adiz took a deep breath. About why I really left Okonkwo Properties 4 years ago. About what your husband did to me. And about the other women. The words hung between them like smoke. Amara's hands tightened around her untouched coffee cup. Other women? Plural. Ngozi isn't the first affair, Mrs. Okonkwo. She's just the first one who lasted. Adiz opened the envelope, pulling out photographs, printed emails, bank statements. I've been collecting evidence for years. After what happened to me, I couldn't let it go. I needed proof, needed something in case. She stopped, her voice breaking. In case someone finally believed me. Amara's hands trembled as she looked at the first photograph. It showed Chike entering a hotel with a woman who wasn't Ngozi. The timestamp read 3 years ago. Who is she? Oluchi Namdi. She was a client, wife of one of his investors. The affair lasted 6 months before her husband found out and pulled all his money from the company. Your husband told everyone the investor was having financial problems. That was a lie. More photographs. More women. Dates spanning back 5 years, maybe longer. Hotel receipts. Deleted text messages that Adiz had somehow recovered. Credit card statements showing jewelry purchases. Vacation bookings for 2. How did you get all this? Amara whispered. I was his secretary. I had access to everything, his emails, his calendar, his expense reports. When I realized what he was doing, when I realized what he'd done to me, I started copying everything, backing it up, waiting for the day when someone might need it. Adiz's voice hardened. That day is today. Amara looked up from the photographs. What did he do to you, Adiz? The woman's eyes filled with tears, but she held Amara's gaze. He raped me, Mrs. Okonkwo, 4 years ago after a company party. He cornered me in his office, told me it would be good for my career if I was nicer to him. When I refused, he forced himself on me. Then he fired me the next day and told everyone I'd been stealing from the company. The cafe seemed to tilt sideways. Amara gripped the table to steady herself. No. Chike wouldn't, he couldn't. I went to the police, Adiz said, her voice flat now, emotionless, as if she'd told this story so many times it had lost all feeling. They laughed at me. A secretary accusing a wealthy businessman? They said I was looking for money, for attention. His lawyers threatened to sue me for defamation. I had no proof. It was my word against his. So I disappeared, changed my phone number, moved to a different part of Lagos, tried to forget. But you kept the evidence. I kept everything. Every affair, every lie, every woman he used and discarded. I tracked them down, some of them. Most were too afraid to talk, but a few shared their stories. Adiz pushed more documents across the table. There's a woman in Abuja who almost killed herself after Chaik promised to leave you for her, then ghosted her completely. There's another one in Port Harcourt who got pregnant. He paid for the abortion and made her sign an NDA. Amara felt like she was drowning. Each revelation was another wave pulling her under. Why didn't you come forward before? Why wait until now? Because no one would believe me then. Adiz said simply, your husband was powerful, connected, protected by his father's name. But now his father's has been Reed. Now the whole city knows he's not the golden son everyone thought he was. Now you have the power, Mrs. Okonkwo. And now, maybe someone will finally listen. Amara's phone buzzed. A text from Folake. Mrs. Okonkwo, your husband's mother and several family members just showed up at the Ikoyi house demanding entry. They're claiming the will is fraudulent and threatening legal action. What do you want me to do? Of course. Mama Nkechi wouldn't accept this quietly. She'd spent years positioning her son as the heir to the Okonkwo empire. She'd spent years making Amara feel unwelcome in her own marriage. Now she was fighting back. I have to go, Amara said, gathering the documents Adiz had given her. Thank you for this, for your courage. I don't know what I'm going to do with all this yet, but use it, Adiz interrupted fiercely. Use it to destroy him. He deserves to lose everything, Mrs. Okonkwo. Not just the money, his reputation, his business relationships, his freedom. He's gotten away with hurting women for too long. Amara nodded slowly. Yesterday, she thought discovering the inheritance was enough revenge. Today, she realized the betrayal went so much deeper than infidelity. Her husband wasn't just a cheater, he was a predator. There's one more thing, Adiz said as Amara stood to leave. Ngozi Adebayo, she's not just his mistress. According to my sources, she's been helping him hide money offshore for the past 2 years. Money from the businesses he thought he owned. Money that legally belongs to you. How much money? At least 200 million naira. Maybe more. The number made Amara's head spin. He's been stealing from his own father's estate. He's been stealing from you. Adiz corrected. And if you move fast, you can trace it, recover it, and use it as evidence of fraud. That's a criminal offense. Mrs. Okonkwo. He could go to prison. Amara's phone buzzed again. This time it was Barrister Ajamosu. Mrs. Okonkwo, we need to talk immediately. Your husband has hired Emmanuel Akindele as his lawyer. Akindele is ruthless and expensive. He's planning something. Call me Emmanuel Akindele. Even Amara had heard of him. The lawyer who got politicians out of corruption charges, who made evidence disappear, who destroyed witnesses on the stand. If Chaik had hired him, he wasn't just planning to contest a will. He was planning war. Amara looked at Adiz, at the envelope full of evidence, at her phone lighting up with urgent messages. 24 hours ago, she'd been a humiliated wife with nothing. Now she was a billionaire with enemies on all sides and secrets that could destroy her husband completely. But using those secrets meant exposing Adiz's trauma publicly. It meant dragging other women's pain into the light. It meant becoming the kind of person who weaponized suffering for revenge. Could she do that? Should she do that? Whatever you decide, Adiz said quietly, as if reading her mind, I'll support you. But remember, he didn't hesitate to destroy you in front of everyone you know. Don't hesitate now. Amara nodded, tucked the envelope under her arm, and walked out of the cafe into the harsh Lagos sunlight. Her car was parked across the street, but she paused before crossing, suddenly aware of how exposed she was. How many enemies had she just made? That's when she noticed the black Mercedes parked 2 cars behind hers. The driver's window was tinted, but she could see someone sitting inside, watching her. Her heart began to race. Was it one of Chaik's people? Someone he'd hired to follow her, to intimidate her? The Mercedes door opened, and a man stepped out, tall, well-dressed, with a face she didn't recognize. He started walking toward her. Amara's hand tightened on her car keys, her finger hovering over the panic button. She was in public, in broad daylight. Surely she was safe. Surely, Mrs. Okonkwo. The man called out, "Don't be afraid. My name is Detective Femi Adeyemi, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. I need to ask you some questions about your husband's business dealings." The EFCC? What does Chaik have to do with financial crimes? And what will Amara do with Adie's evidence? Comment your thoughts below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Detective Femi Adeyemi had the kind of face that gave nothing away. Smooth, professional, unreadable. He showed Amara his identification card, the silver EFCC badge glinting in the sunlight, and gestured toward a coffee shop across the street, different from the one where she just met Adie's. "I prefer somewhere more private to talk, Mrs. Okonkwo. This won't take long." Amara's mind raced. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission didn't show up randomly. They investigated fraud, money laundering, corruption, serious crimes that sent powerful people to prison. What had Chaik done? "Am I being investigated?" she asked carefully. "No, Ma, but your husband is. And we believe you might have information that could help our case." Detective Adeyemi's voice was respectful but firm. "This is an opportunity for you to cooperate voluntarily. The alternative is that we issue a formal summons, which will become public record." The threat was subtle but clear. Amara followed him into the coffee shop, choosing a table at the back where they could speak without being overheard. Her hands clutched the envelope Adie's had given her. She hadn't had time to put in her car. Detective Adeyemi noticed. "What's in the envelope, Mrs. Okonkwo?" "Personal documents. They have nothing to do with business. I'll be the judge of that." He pulled out a small notepad. "How much do you know about your husband's real estate transactions over the past 3 years?" "Very little. He never discussed business with me." "Did you know that Okonkwo Properties has been receiving government contracts worth over 600 million naira through fraudulent means? Bribing officials, inflating construction costs, using shell companies to hide the money trail?" Amara felt the blood drain from her face. 600 million naira in fraud. That wasn't just financial crime. That was the kind of scandal that destroyed families, ended careers, put people behind bars for decades. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I swear, I had no involvement in any of that." "We believe you," Detective Adeyemi said. "Our investigation began 8 months ago, long before your father-in-law's death. We've been watching your husband's movements, tracking his accounts. What we need now is access to company records, accounting books, emails, internal documents, things that, as of yesterday, you now legally own." So that was why he'd approached her. The inheritance had made her the owner of all the evidence the EFCC needed to prosecute Chaik. She wasn't just a witness. She was the key to their entire case. "If I help you," Amara said slowly, "what happens to the businesses? To the properties and investments my father-in-law built legitimately? Assets obtained through fraud will be seized," the detective said bluntly, "but legitimate holdings will remain yours. We're not interested in punishing innocent parties, Mrs. Okonkwo. We're interested in justice." Amara thought about the businesses Papa Okonkwo had built from nothing, honest businesses, before Chaik had corrupted them with greed. How many of those assets were tainted now? How much would she lose if she cooperated? "I need time to think," she said, "and I need to speak with my lawyer." Detective Adeyemi nodded. "You have 48 hours. After that, we move forward with or without your cooperation. But I'll tell you something off the record. Mrs. Okonkwo, your husband knows we're investigating him. That's why he hired Emmanuel Akindele. That's why he's moving money offshore as we speak. If you don't freeze those accounts immediately, there won't be anything left to recover." Amara's phone buzzed again. Another text from Folklore. "Urgent. Mama Nkechi is causing a scene. She's brought a pastor who's trying to pray away the curse. You've supposedly put on the family. The neighbors are watching. Please advise. And another from Barrister Ajamosu. Akinley has filed an emergency petition to freeze the estate pending a competency review of Papa Okonkwo's mental state. When he wrote the will, we need to respond today or risk losing access to the accounts. Everything was happening too fast. 24 hours ago, Amara had been planning an anniversary party. Now she was caught between the EFCC, her husband's fraud, his mother's dramatics, and evidence of crimes that could destroy multiple lives. I have to go, Amara said, standing abruptly. I'll contact you within 48 hours. Detective Adeyemi handed her his card. One more thing, Mrs. Okonkwo. Be careful. Men like your husband don't go down quietly. He's already lost his inheritance and his reputation. He has nothing left to lose now, which makes him dangerous. The warning sent ice through Amara's veins. She hurried to her car, locked the doors, and sat there for a moment, trying to catch her breath. The envelope from Adiz sat on the passenger seat beside her, full of evidence of affairs and assault. The detective's card was in her hand, representing evidence of financial crimes. Her phone kept buzzing with urgent messages about immediate crises. She needed help, real help, someone who understood power and strategy and how to survive when everyone wanted to destroy you. Amara scrolled through her contacts and stopped on a name she hadn't called in 3 years. Zainab Bello, her former classmate from the University of Lagos. Zainab had gone on to become one of Nigeria's top crisis management consultants, the woman companies call when scandals threaten to sink them. She handled politicians, celebrities, corporations, and she owed Amara a favor from their university days that she'd never collected. The phone rang twice before Zainab's crisp voice answered. Amara Okonkwo, I was wondering when you'd call. I saw the video from your anniversary party. 50,000 views and counting, by the way. I need your help, Z. I know. I'm already working on it. Meet me at my office in an hour. And Amara, bring everything, the will, the evidence, all of it. If we're going to bury your husband, we need to do it right. Amara drove toward Victoria Island, her hands tight on the steering wheel. The city blurred past her. Street vendors, yellow Danfo buses, the chaotic beauty of Lagos that she'd always loved. Somewhere in this city, Chaik was plotting his revenge. His mother was staging her theatrical protests. Ngozi was probably counting stolen money in some hotel room. And Amara? Amara was done being the victim. She parked outside Zainab's office building and checked her appearance in the mirror. Her eyes were shadowed with exhaustion. But there was something else there now, a hardness that hadn't existed 2 days ago, a determination that came from being pushed too far. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Amara. Chaik's voice was cold, controlled. Too controlled. We need to talk. Privately. I have nothing to say to you. Then listen. I know you went to see Barrister Ajamosu. I know you're planning something with those papers. And I know you met with someone at Cafe Harmony this morning. Don't ask me how I know. Just understand that I'm watching you. Amara's blood ran cold. He'd had her followed. He'd been tracking her movements. If you think I'm going to let you destroy me, Chaik continued, his voice dropping to something menacing, you're making a terrible mistake. That will can be contested. Papa Okonkwo was old, sick, heavily medicated. Any judge will question his mental capacity. And when they do, when this goes to court, every dirty secret about you will come out. I don't have any dirty secrets. Everyone has secrets, Amara. His laugh was cruel. Where do you think all the money for your sister's university fees came from? The medical bills for your mother before she died? You think I paid for all that out of love? I have receipts. I have documentation. And I have a very expensive lawyer who's going to paint you as a gold digger who manipulated a dying man. You're lying. Am I? Ask yourself, why would my father cut me out completely? It doesn't make sense unless someone poisoned his mind against me. Unless someone convinced him I was unworthy while positioning themselves as the perfect daughter-in-law. He paused, letting the accusation sink in. That's the story we're going to tell in court. And by the time we're done, you'll be the villain, not me. Amara's hands trembled with rage. You humiliated me in front of everyone. You betrayed our marriage. You! I gave you everything. Chaik exploded. I took you from that slum, gave you a life you could never have dreamed of, and this is how you repay me? By stealing my inheritance. It was never your inheritance. Then meet me, Chaik said, his voice suddenly calm again. Tonight, 8 p.m., the penthouse suite at Federal Palace Hotel. Come alone, and we'll work out a deal, something that benefits both of us. Or refuse, and I'll make sure this gets uglier than you can imagine. The line went dead. Amara sat in her car, staring at her phone, her mind racing. It was obviously a trap. Chaik wanted to intimidate her, maybe worse. The detective's warning echoed in her head. He has nothing left to lose now, which makes him dangerous. But what if he had evidence that could destroy her case? What if he really could prove she'd manipulated Papa Okonkwo? Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, a different one this time. It was a video file. Amara's hands shook as she opened it. The video showed the inside of what looked like a hospital room. Papa Okonkwo lay in the bed unconscious, tubes and wires attached to his frail body, and standing beside him, holding his hand, whispering something Amara couldn't hear, was Amara herself. The timestamp read, 3 weeks before Papa Okonkwo had changed his will. Amara's stomach dropped. She didn't remember this moment. She spent so many hours at Papa's bedside during his illness. They all blurred together. But whoever had filmed this, whoever was threatening to use it, could edit it, manipulate it, make it look like she was coaching a dying man, planting ideas in his confused mind. The text that followed read, I have 6 more videos like this. Dropped will claim, or they go public. You have 24 hours. A friend of the family. Someone is setting Amara up. Who's behind those videos? And should she meet Chaik at the hotel? Comment your theories below. Smash that like button and subscribe. Share this with anyone who loves a good conspiracy. Zainab Bello's office was all glass and steel, with a view of Lagos Harbor that probably cost more than most people's houses. But the woman herself was warm, pulling Amara into a tight embrace the moment she walked through the door. Sit, Zainab commanded, gesturing to a leather couch. Tell me everything. And I mean everything. Don't leave out a single detail. For the next hour, Amara talked. She showed Zainab the will, Adi's envelope of evidence, the threatening video, Detective Adeyemi's card. She told her about Chaik's phone call, his mother's antics, the lawyer's petition, the offshore accounts. By the time she finished, Zainab had filled 3 pages with notes, her expression growing darker with each revelation. Your husband is panicking, Zainab said finally. That video threat? That's desperation. The hotel meeting? Classic intimidation tactic. He's scrambling because he knows he's losing control. But what if the videos are real? What if they make me look like I manipulated Papa Okonkwo? Then we get ahead of it. Zainab pulled out her laptop. Crisis management rule number 1. Control the narrative before someone else does. We're going to release your own statement. Not defensive, not apologetic, just truthful. You were a devoted daughter-in-law who cared for a dying man. Any videos showing that are evidence of your character, not manipulation. And the hotel meeting? You're not going alone. Zainab smiled grimly. But you are going, with a wire, a security team outside, and me listening to every word. If Chaik threatens you, we'll have evidence. If he tries to harm you, we'll have him arrested. Either way, we turn his trap into ours. Amara felt a weight lift slightly. For the first time since this nightmare began, she wasn't alone. What about the EFCC investigation? If I cooperate, I lose some of the businesses. If you don't cooperate, you might lose everything, including your freedom if they decide you were complicit. Zainab leaned forward. Here's what we do. We offer conditional cooperation. You give them access to records, but only in exchange for full immunity and a guarantee that legitimately obtained assets remain yours. We negotiate from strength, not fear. And Adi's evidence? The other women? Zainab was quiet for a moment. Her fingers steepled under her chin. That's the nuclear option. Once you release that There's no going back. Your husband doesn't just lose money and reputation. He loses his freedom. Rape charges, even historical ones, are serious. But it also means Adiz and those other women get dragged through public scrutiny, through cross-examination, through social media judgment. So I'm supposed to just ignore what he did to them? No, Zainab said firmly. You give them the choice. You contact each woman privately, explain that you have evidence and legal support, and ask if they want to come forward. Some will say yes. Some will say no. But it has to be their decision, not yours. Amara nodded slowly. It made sense. She couldn't weaponize other women's trauma without their consent, no matter how much you wanted revenge. Now, Zainab continued, about your mother-in-law. Mama Nkechi is performing for an audience, trying to paint you as a villain. We need to cut off her platform. Do you have any allies in the family? Anyone who might speak up for you? Amara thought hard. Most of Chaik's relatives had always sided with Mama Nkechi, but there was one person, Uncle Obinna, Papa Okonkwo's younger brother. He'd always been kind to Amara, had defended her a few times when Mama Nkechi got particularly vicious. He lived in Enugu, had stayed out of the Lagos family drama, but maybe Uncle Obinna, she said. He might help. Call him. Today. Tell him everything. The will, Papa's letter, the truth about why you have no children. If he's the man you think he is, he'll come to Lagos and put his sister-in-law in her place. Amara's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from a number she recognized. Chaik's cousin, Emeka. Amara, I'm sorry about what happened at the party. Chaik was wrong. If you need someone to testify about his character, about how he treated you, I'll do it. He's been stealing from the family businesses for years. It's time someone stopped him. Amara showed a message to Zainab, who smiled. See? The rats are abandoning the sinking ship. Chaik thought he had loyalty, but he only had fear, the moment his power disappeared. So did their allegiance. Another message came through, this one from Folake. Mrs. Okonkwo, your mother-in-law has left the premises. But before she did, she made several statements to journalists she'd invited. The story is already being picked up by blogs and newspapers. They're calling it the battle for the Okonkwo fortune. Perfect, Zainab said when Amara showed her. Let them print it. By tomorrow morning. We'll have your side of the story everywhere. Blogs, newspapers, radio, social media. We'll include Papa Okonkwo's letter, your testimony about caring for him, character witnesses. By the time we're done, Mama Nkechi will look like a bitter woman who's upset her son didn't inherit. What about the person who sent the videos? Amara asked, the friend of the family, who's threatening to release them? Zainab's eyes narrowed. That's interesting, isn't it? How did they get footage from inside a private hospital room? Someone had to plant a camera or have access to security footage. That takes resources, planning, advanced knowledge. You think it's Chaik? Chaik, or someone working for him. But here's what they don't know. Secret recordings in a hospital room without consent are illegal. If they release those videos, they're admitting to a crime. We'll file criminal charges immediately, and any court will throw out evidence obtained illegally. Amara felt hope flickering stronger now. Every problem had a solution. Every threat had a countermove. She wasn't helpless. There's one more thing, Zainab said, her tone serious. I did some digging into Emmanuel Akindele, your husband's lawyer. He's expensive, Amara. Like 20 million naira retainer expensive. Where's Chaik getting that kind of money? The offshore accounts. Amara said immediately, the money he's been hiding with Ngozi. Exactly. Which means he's still accessing funds that legally belong to you. We need to freeze everything now, before he drains the accounts completely. Zainab made several phone calls while Mara sat there, watching Lagos spread out below them. Millions of people living their lives, unaware of the war being waged in glass towers and courtrooms. Somewhere in that sprawl, Chaik was planning his next move. Ngozi was probably helping him. Mama Nkechi was giving interviews about her cruel daughter-in-law. And Papa Okonkwo's ghost was watching, Amara thought, hoping she'd prove worthy of his faith. By 6 p.m., Zainab had assembled a team, a tech expert to trace the offshore accounts. a security consultant to prepare for the hotel meeting, a PR specialist to craft Amara's public statement, and a lawyer from her firm who specialized in criminal defense, just in case. The hotel meeting is at 8, Zainab reminded her. We have 2 hours to wire you, brief the security team, and prepare for every possible scenario. Are you sure you want to do this? Amara thought about the video of her humiliation, viewed by thousands. She thought about Chaik's cruel words. You're boring. You're plain. You stopped trying years ago. She thought about Adi's tears, the other women he'd hurt, the employees he defrauded. I'm sure, she said. At 7:30 p.m., Amara stood in Zainab's conference room while a technician taped a tiny microphone under her blouse. She wore a simple dress, minimal makeup. She wanted to look tired, vulnerable, like a woman who might be intimidated into surrender. But underneath performance, she was steel. Remember, Zainab said, fitting an earpiece into Amara's ear, hidden beneath her hair. Get him talking. Let him make threats. Let him reveal his plans. The more he says, the more evidence we have. What if he searches me for a wire? Then the security team comes in immediately. But I don't think he will. He's arrogant, Amara. He thinks you're weak, that you'll crumble under pressure. Use that. The drive to Federal Palace Hotel took 20 minutes. Amara's security team, 2 stern-looking men in a black SUV, followed at a discreet distance. Zainab stayed connected through the earpiece, her voice calm and steady. You're going to be fine, Zainab murmured. Just remember, you hold all the cards here. He's the one who should be afraid. Amara rode the elevator to the penthouse suite, her heart pounding so hard she could hear in her ears. The doors open onto a private hallway, with only one door at the end. She knocked twice. Chaik opened it himself. He'd changed from his suit into casual clothes, designer jeans, a fitted shirt. He looked good, Amara noticed with a pang. He'd always been handsome. That had been part of the problem. You came, he said, surprise and satisfaction mixing in his voice. I wasn't sure you would. You said we needed to talk. Chaik stepped aside, letting her enter. The suite was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a living area, a full bar. And sitting on the couch, her legs crossed, wearing the same red dress from the anniversary party, was Ngozi. Amara stopped dead. What is she doing here? Ngozi is part of this conversation, Chaik said smoothly. She's been helping me manage certain financial aspect of the business. Aspects you're now trying to claim ownership of. In her ear, Zainab whispered, Stay calm. This is good. 2 confessions are better than 1. Amara forced herself to sit in the chair opposite the couch, her back straight. You said you wanted to make a deal. I do. Chaik poured himself a whiskey from bar, then offered her one. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign papers relinquishing your claim to 70% of this estate. You can keep the house, some investments, enough to live comfortably, but the bulk of the businesses come back to me where they belong. And if I refuse? Ngozi leaned forward, a cruel smile playing on her lips. Then those videos of you manipulating poor Papa Okonkwo go public. Then we release medical records showing he was on heavy painkillers and dementia medication when he changed his will, medications that severely affected his judgment. Then, Chaik continued, we present evidence that you've been having an affair for the past year, which is why our marriage fell apart. That you use your lover's legal connections to manipulate the will process. Amara's blood ran cold. That's a complete lie. I've never. Doesn't matter if it's true, Chaik said coldly. Matters if people believe it. And my lawyer is very good at making people believe things. In her ear, he's threatening to commit perjury. Keep him talking. This is perfect. Why are you doing this? Amara asked, genuine confusion in her voice. I gave you 10 years, Chaik. I supported you, stood by you, protected your secrets. Why do you hate me so much? For just a moment, something flickered across Chaik's face, guilt maybe or regret, but it vanished quickly. I don't hate you, Amara. I just don't love you. I never really did. You were convenient, the kind of woman my father approved of, someone who'd take care of the household, while I built my empire. But you're not the woman I want. Ngozi reached over, took his hand. The diamond necklace glittered at her throat. Amara's necklace, she realized now. The one she'd wanted. The woman you want, Amara said slowly, is helping you steal millions of naira from a state that doesn't belong to you. Helping him secure what's rightfully his. Ngozi corrected. Chaik built those businesses up. What did you do? Played housewife. Attended charity events. You don't deserve that money. And you do. I earned it. Ngozi purred. 3 years of being available whenever he needed me, of managing the accounts, of making sure money got moved to the right places before anyone could track it. Unlike you, I'm actually useful. In her ear, Zainab's voice was triumphant. She just confessed a financial fraud on recording. We have them. Chaik stood, walked to where Amara sat, loomed over her, signed the papers. Amara, take the deal, or I'll destroy you so completely that even when this is over, no one will remember your name except as a footnote to my story. Amara looked up at him, this man she'd married with such hope, and felt nothing but pity. No, she said quietly. I won't sign anything. Chaik's face darkened. Then you've made your choice. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. The videos go online in 5 minutes. The fake evidence about your affair goes to every major newspaper. And by morning you'll be... The suite door burst open. Detective Adeyemi walked in, flanked by 4 other EFCC officers. Behind them, Zainab entered, her phone still recording. Chaik Okonkwo. Detective Adeyemi said formally, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy to commit perjury. Ngozi Adebayo, you're also under arrest for aiding in financial crimes. The color drained from Chaik's face. What? How did you? Your wife has been wearing a wire for the past 30 minutes, Zainab said pleasantly. Every threat you made, every confession, every admission of fraud, we have it all on recording, including Ms. Adebayo's helpful explanation of how she's been helping you steal money. Ngozi jumped up from the couch, her confidence evaporating. This is entrapment. It won't hold up in court. Actually, Zainab said, it will. Mrs. Okonkwo was invited here under threat. She recorded the conversation in self-defense. Perfectly legal. As the officers handcuffed both Chaik and Ngozi, Amara stood, her legs somehow still steady beneath her. Chaik looked at her, and for the first time, she saw real fear in his eyes. Amara, wait, we can still work this out. I was just testing you, I didn't mean... You meant every word, Amara said quietly, and now you'll face the consequences. As they led him away, Chaik turned back one last time. You'll regret this. My mother will. The family will. You can't win against all of us. But his voice faded as the elevator doors closed, taking him down to the police vehicles waiting below. Amara stood in the empty penthouse suite, Zainab beside her, and realized she was shaking. Not from fear, from relief, from exhaustion, from the weight of 10 years finally lifting off her shoulders. It's not over, Zainab reminded her gently. There's still the will contest, your mother-in-law's campaign, the EFCC investigation. But the worst is behind you now. Amara's phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Obinna. I'm catching a flight to Lagos tonight. Mama Nkechi has gone too far. It's time someone told her the truth about her precious son. See you tomorrow, my dear. And another text, this one from a number she didn't recognize. Mrs. Okonkwo, this is Chioma. I was one of your husband's former employees. Adiz gave me your number. I want to press charges. I'm ready to tell my story. Are you ready to help us get justice? Amara looked at the message, then at Zainab. There are more women. They won't come forward. Zainab nodded slowly. Then, tomorrow, we start gathering their testimonies. Tonight, though, you should rest. You've earned it. But as Amara left the hotel, walking past reporters who'd somehow already heard about the arrest, past the cameras and questions and chaos, she knew rest wouldn't come easily, because tomorrow would bring new battles. Mama Nkechi wouldn't surrender quietly. Emmanuel Akinley would fight tooth and nail to free his clients. The newspapers would feast on every detail of the scandal. And somewhere in a holding cell, Chaik was probably already plotting his revenge. The war was far from over. But for the first time, Amara knew she could win it. Chaik's been arrested, but will he stay behind bars? Or does he have one more trick up his sleeve? And what will happen when the other victims come forward? Drop a comment with your predictions. Don't forget to like and subscribe. 3 weeks later, Amara sat in the front row of a packed courtroom in Lagos High Court. Wearing a navy blue traditional wrapper and matching blouse her sister had helped her choose. The outfit was dignified, respectful, perfect for what would likely be the final confrontation with the Okonkwo family. The courtroom buzzed with whispers. Journalists filled the gallery. Cameras waited outside, ready to capture every moment of what the newspapers were calling the trial of the decade. Chaik sat at the defense table with Emmanuel Akindele, his expensive suit doing nothing to hide the exhaustion on his face. 3 weeks in custody had aged him. Shadows under his eyes, his shoulders slumped in a way Amara had never seen before. Ngozi sat beside him, looking equally worn, her red lipstick the only splash of color against her pale skin. On the other side of the courtroom, Mama Nkechi held court with various relatives, shooting daggers at Amara with her eyes. But notably absent from her side were several key family members, including Uncle Obinna, who now sat directly behind Amara, his hand occasionally patting her shoulder in support. All rise for the Honorable Justice Adebla Olaniyan, the bailiff announced. The judge was a woman in her 60s, known for her no-nonsense approach and her intolerance for wealthy defendants who thought they could buy their way out of consequences. Amara had researched her carefully. Justice Olaniyan had a daughter who'd been victimized by a powerful man once. She'd fought for justice then, and she'd made a career of fighting for it ever since. "We're here today," Justice Olaniyan began, her voice carrying through the silent courtroom, to address multiple matters. The criminal charges against Mr. Chaik Okonkwo and Ms. Ngozi Adebayo, the contest of Chief Okonkwo's will and the related civil suits. Let's begin with the criminal proceedings. For the next hour, the prosecution laid out their case with devastating precision. Bank statements showing 215 million naira moved to offshore accounts. Emails between Chaik and Ngozi discussing how to hide assets. The recorded conversation from the hotel suite, where both defendants confessed to fraud. Testimony from the EFCC about the government contract schemes. Emmanuel Akindele fought hard, objecting to evidence, questioning chain of custody, trying to paint his client as a victim of circumstance. But the evidence was overwhelming. Then came the testimony that changed everything. The prosecution calls Ms. Adiz Chukwu to the stand. A ripple went through the courtroom. Amara had warned people this was coming, but seeing Adiz walk to the witness stand, dignified, brave, her head held high, made it real. Adiz was sworn in, and the prosecutor, a sharp woman named Barr, Chidima Okoro, approached gently. "Ms. Chukwu, can you tell the court about your employment with Okonkwo Properties 4 years ago?" Adiz's voice was steady as she recounted her story. The assault, the threats, the cover-up, the destruction of her career. In the gallery, people gasped. Journalists scribbled furiously. Chaik's face went white, then red, then purple. "Objection!" Akindele leapt to his feet. "This allegation has nothing to do with the current charges. This is character assassination." "Your Honor," Barr, Okoro countered, "it establishes a pattern of behavior, abuse of power, intimidation, using his position to victimize those beneath him. It's directly relevant to understanding how Mr. Okonkwo operated his businesses." Overruled, Justice Olaniyan said firmly, "The witness may continue." When Adiz finished, there were tears on many faces in the gallery. Then came Chioma, the former employee who texted Amara, then another woman and another. 5 in total, each with her own story of how Chaik Okonkwo had used his power, his charm, his money to abuse and discard them. By the time the last testimony ended, even Akindele looked shaken. He cross-examined aggressively, tried to poke holes in timelines, question motivations, suggest these women were after money. But their stories were too consistent, too detailed, too painful to be fabrications. During a brief recess, Amara stepped into the hallway for air. Uncle Obinna followed her. "You did the right thing, helping those women come forward," he said quietly. "My brother would be proud." Mama Nkechi doesn't think so. Amara nodded toward where her mother-in-law stood with her supporters, glaring across the corridor. My sister-in-law has spent her entire life making excuses for her son, Uncle Obinna said. Even now, she believes this is all your fault, that you've orchestrated some elaborate revenge scheme. She can't accept that you raised a man capable of these things. As if summoned, Mama Nkechi marched across the hallway, her wrapper sweeping dramatically behind her. You, she spat at Amara. You've destroyed my son. You manipulated his dying father. You seduced him into marriage, and now you're inventing lies to steal everything from him. The only lies here are the ones you told yourself about what kind of man your son is. Uncle Obinna said coldly. I've reviewed the evidence. Nkechi, all of it. The fraud, the assault allegations, the hidden money. Your son is a criminal, and you've enabled him his entire life. Mom Nkechi's face twisted with rage. You dare speak to me like... I dare, because someone should have dared years ago. Uncle Obinna's voice rose. My brother saw the truth before he died. He saw that Amara had more integrity in her little finger than Chaik had in his entire body. That's why he left everything to her. Not because she manipulated him, but because she earned it. Court is resuming. A bailiff called out. They filed back inside. The afternoon session focused on the will contest. Akindele presented his case. Medical records showing Papa Okonkwo had been on pain medication. Testimony from doctors about his condition in the months before his death. Suggestions that undue influence had been exerted. Then Barrister Ajamosu took the stand. Barrister Ajamosu, you were Chief Okonkwo's attorney for 30 years. Can you describe his mental state when he changed his will? Sharp as ever, the lawyer said firmly, he made the changes 3 years before his death, long before his illness became severe. He was a completely sound mind, and his instructions were crystal clear. He even predicted that his son would contest the will, which is why he required me to wait 6 months after his death to reveal it. He wanted to test Chaik's character. And what did he tell you about why he was making these changes? Barrister Ajamosu pulled out his notes. He said, and I quote, My son has my business mind, but not my heart. He treats his wife like property, not a partner. He values money over character. I will not reward that. Amara has shown me what true loyalty looks like. She deserves to carry on my legacy. In the gallery, several people nodded. Mama Nkechi looked like she'd been slapped. Then came the moment Amara had been dreading, her own testimony. She took the stand, placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. Barrister Ajamosu walked her through her marriage, the early years when she'd supported Chaik's struggling business, the loneliness as he withdrew emotionally, the medical diagnosis that revealed he was the reason they had no children, her choice to keep a secret to protect his pride. Why did you keep it secret? Barrister Ajamosu asked gently. Because I loved him, Amara said simply, because I thought marriage meant protecting each other. I didn't realize he saw it as me being weak, being boring. I thought I was being loyal. He thought I was being foolish. Then Akindele stood for a cross-examination, and Amara braced herself. Mrs. Okonkwo, you claim you care for Chief Okonkwo out of pure devotion. But isn't it true you spent an unusual amount of time alone with him during his final months? I was his caregiver. Someone had to be there. And during those private moments, you never discussed his will? Never mentioned that you felt unappreciated? Never suggested that perhaps his son didn't deserve to inherit? Never. Amara said firmly, Papa Okonkwo made his own decisions. How convenient that those decisions made you a billionaire. Objection. Barrister Ajamosu stood. Counsel is testifying instead of questioning. Sustained. Mr. Akindele, ask questions, don't make speeches. Akindele tried for another hour to shake Amara's testimony, to paint her as a manipulative gold digger. But she remained calm, truthful, consistent. She didn't need to lie. The truth was her weapon. Finally, it was time for closing arguments. Bar. Okoro went first, summarizing the mountain of evidence against Chaik Ngozi, fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, and the pattern of abuse that showed his character. Then Akindele stood, and Amara had to admire his skill. He painted Chaik as a devoted son, destroyed by a scheming wife and a father whose judgment had been clouded by illness and medication. He argued the will should be invalidated, the criminal charges dismissed as based on illegally obtained evidence. But when he sat down, Justice Olanian's expression was unreadable. "I'll render my decision after a brief recess," she announced. The wait felt eternal. Amara sat with Uncle Obinna, Zainab, and her sister Chinyu, who'd flown in from Abuja to support her. Across the courtroom, Chaik sat with his head in his hands, Mama and Ketchy whispering furiously in his ear. 30 minutes later, they were called back. Justice Olanian looked at the assembled crowd with stern eyes. "I've reviewed all evidence, all testimony, all arguments, and I've reached my decision." The courtroom fell deathly silent. "Regarding the criminal charges, I find the defendants, Chaik Okonkwo and Ngozi Adebayo, guilty of fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. The evidence is overwhelming, and the defendants' own recorded confessions leave no room for doubt. Sentencing will be scheduled for next week, but I'm recommending significant prison time." Chaik's head dropped. Ngozi let out a sob. Mama and Ketchy wailed dramatically. "Regarding the will contest, I find Chief Okonkwo's will to be valid, legal, and a clear representation of his wishes. The medical evidence shows he was of sound mind when he made these changes. More importantly, his written explanation makes his reasoning crystal clear. He was rewarding character, not blood. The will stands. Mrs. Amara Okonkwo is the rightful heir to the Okonkwo estate." The gallery erupted. Journalists rushed for the doors. Camera flashes went off despite the bailiff's protests. Amara sat frozen, barely able to process what she'd just heard. She'd won. Against all odds, against all the power and money and manipulation thrown at her, she'd won. Uncle Obinna hugged her. Chinyu was crying. Zainab was already on her phone, no doubt crafting the press statement they'd release within the hour. As the courtroom cleared, Amara found herself face-to-face with Chaik one last time. The officers were preparing to take him back to custody, but he'd paused, looking at her. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." Amara studied his face, looking for sincerity. She found regret there, maybe even remorse. But she also found something else, the realization that he'd lost, that his actions had consequences, that the woman he'd dismissed as boring and plain had destroyed him completely. "I'm not," Amara said. "You gave me the chance to become someone stronger than I knew I could be. So thank you for that." She turned and walked away, leaving him staring after her. 3 months later, Amara stood on the balcony of her new office, the one that had belonged to Chaik in the Okonkwo Properties building. She'd redecorated completely, replacing his cold minimalism with warm colors, family photos, and a framed copy of Papa Okonkwo's letter. The businesses were stabilizing. She'd hired new management, cleaned out the corruption, returned to ethical practices. The EFCC had recovered most of the stolen funds. The property seized for fraud had been sold, but the legitimate holdings remained, and they were flourishing under honest leadership. She'd established the Chief Okonkwo Foundation, which provided support for survivors of workplace abuse and domestic violence. Adiz was its first director, and she'd already helped dozens of women find legal support, counseling, and new employment. Chaik was serving 7 years in Kirikiri prison for fraud and embezzlement. The assault charges were still pending. 3 of the 5 women had decided to press charges after seeing him convicted on the financial crimes. Ngozi got 5 years and immediate deportation after her sentence. Mama and Ketchy had moved back to her village in Enugu, too ashamed to show her face in Lagos society. Some family members had cut contact with Amara, unable to forgive her for destroying Chaik, but others, like Uncle Obinna and Cousin Emeka, had become close allies. Her phone rang. It was Zainab. "Turn on your TV. Channel 5. Now!" Amara switched on the screen in her office. A news anchor was speaking. Remarkable story of Amara Okonkwo, who turned public humiliation into public triumph. Her foundation just received a 50 million naira grant from the federal government to expand services nationwide. Mrs. Okonkwo, who was called boring and plain by her husband just 3 months ago, is now on Forbes' Africa's 50 most influential women list. Amara laughed. shaking her head. Forbes, Africa. Her mother would have been so proud. There was a knock on her office door. Her new assistant, a young woman named Blessing, peeked in. "Ma, there's someone here to see you. He says he knew Papa Okonkwo." "Send him in." The man who entered was elderly, distinguished, wearing traditional attire. Amara recognized him immediately. Chief Emek Adewale, one of Papa Okonkwo's oldest business partners. "Mrs. Okonkwo," he said, bowing slightly. "Forgive the unexpected visit, but I heard what you accomplished in these few months, how you've honored Chief Okonkwo's legacy, and I wanted to offer my support. My company would like to invest in your foundation and partner with Okonkwo Properties on several projects." They talked for an hour about business, about the future, about Papa Okonkwo's vision. When Chief Adewale left, Amara returned to her balcony, looking out over Lagos, chaotic, beautiful, full of millions of stories just like hers. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Okonkwo, my name is Grace. I just left my abusive husband, and I have nowhere to go and no money. Someone told me about your foundation. Can you help me?" Amara smiled, typing back quickly, "Yes. Come to our office tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll help you. You're not alone anymore." She thought about that night at the Federal Palace Hotel, when she'd worn a wire and confronted her husband. She'd been terrified then, unsure if she was strong enough to see it through. Now she knew the truth. She'd always been strong enough. She just needed the world to see it. The sun was setting over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Amara raised her coffee cup in a silent toast. To Papa Okonkwo, who believed in her. To Adiz and the other women who'd found their courage. To Uncle Obinna and everyone who'd stood by her. To her younger self, who'd married with such hope and survived the death of that hope with her dignity intact. And to the future, uncertain, challenging, but finally completely hers. Behind her, Lagos thrummed with life, full of women waiting to hear that they too could survive betrayal and emerge stronger. Full of men who needed to learn that cruelty had consequences. Full of stories waiting to be told about justice, redemption, and the quiet power of refusing to stay broken. Amara's story was just one of them, but it was enough. It was more than enough. What a journey! From public humiliation to public triumph. Amara showed us that strength isn't about never falling. It's about how you rise. What was your favorite moment in this story? Comment below. And here's a question for you. If you inherited billions but had to fight your whole family for it, would you? Let us know. If you love this story, smash that like button. Subscribe to Echoes of Africa for more powerful African stories. And turn on all notifications so you never miss an upload. Share this video with every strong woman you know who needs to hear that betrayal doesn't define you. Your response to it does. Drop a comment telling us. What story do you want to hear next? Modern African romance? Family drama? Business betrayal? Your suggestions help us create the content you want to see. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, your story isn't over. Sometimes the worst chapters lead to the best endings. Until next time, this is Echoes of Africa, where every story is power and every voice deserves to be heard. Stay blessed.